Welcome to today's presentation. I hope you take the opportunity to listen all the way through and then apply these principles to your study in this research methodology class. My name is Jim Watford, and I want to introduce to you How to Read the Bible for All It's Worth by Gordon D. Fee and Douglas Stewart. What is the aim of good interpretation? The aim of good interpretation is not uniqueness. One is not trying to discover what no one else has ever seen before. It is simple, as the authors say here in the book, to get at the plain meaning of the text, the author's intended meaning. So the aim of good interpretation is to get at the biblical author's meaning, what they intended back then, as well as what they intend for today. Every reader is an interpreter. We invariably bring to the text all that we are, with all of our experiences, our culture, and our prior understandings of words and ideas. The Bible is at the same time both human and divine. If you look on page 25 of the text, you'll see this. It is a partnership. What do the authors mean by this statement? Take a moment and ponder on that. What do you think they mean? How can a book be both human and divine at the same time? Interpretation of the Bible is demanded by the tension between eternal relevance and historical peculiarity. Eternal relevance is, what does it mean for today? And how do we interpret what it means for today as we look back historically on what it meant to the community where it was first written? How is that relevant for us today as we interpret God's Word? Because the Bible is God's message, it has an eternal relevance. It speaks to all humankind in every age and in every culture. Do you agree or disagree with that quote? Why do you agree or disagree? What is the difference between exegesis and hermeneutics? What? What are you talking about, Professor? Exegesis is hearing the word that the original readers heard. We must try to understand what was said to them back then and there. Hermeneutics is listening or hearing that same word in the here and now. So exegesis is looking at the past, seeing what it said to the community then. Hermeneutics is seeing what it has to say to our audience today. What is the difference? The first task of the interpreter is exegesis, to look back at the past. Learning to do exegesis. How then do we learn to do exegesis and at the same time avoid the pitfalls along the way? The key to good exegesis and therefore to a more intelligent reading of the Bible is to learn to read the text carefully and to ask the right questions of the text. There are two kinds of basic questions for exegesis. The first questions relate to the context, the time and the culture of the author and audience, the geographical and topographical and political factors relevant to the setting, the historical occasion of the book. Why was it written? and what was going on in history at that time. And then there are questions relating to content. Content has to do with the meaning of words, their grammatical relationships in sentences. Secondly, content has to do with the choice of the original text, where manuscripts differ from one another. There are tools that we have for exegesis as well. First is a good translation. Good translation, and then secondly, there are good Bible dictionary, like the International Standard Bible Encyclopedia, Zondervan's Illustrated Bible Dictionary, or Erdman's Dictionary of the Bible. Another tool is that of good commentaries, and there's a very variety and numerous commentaries out there that you need to explore as you look at exegesis for your passage in the New Testament. The second task is hermeneutics. Hermeneutics originally covered the whole field of interpretation, including exegesis. However, it is also used in a more narrow sense of seeking the contemporary relevance of ancient text. And this is how it's seen today. So one of our examples, one of our tools is to hermeneutics. Proper hermeneutics begins with solid exegesis. You must begin the original intent of the Bible. You must go back to the past before you can look at the meaning for today. The author said on page 34, the true meaning of the biblical text for us is what God originally intended it to be when it was first written and spoken, or spoken and written. Your best tool in a good translation is a good translation of the Bible. Which translation then should one read? We would venture to suggest that the current NIV from 2011, a committee translation by the best scholarship in the evangelical tradition, is a good translation as you can get. This is the recommendation from the authors. Hood Seminary, however, uses the NRSV in our services and our readings. So you'll want to use the NRSV when you're preparing your papers for this class, as well as for Core Seminar 3 and while you're working on your project. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this presentation, How to Read the Bible for All It's Worth. I hope that this book will be an additional resource that you might consider reading as you think about working on your exegesis for your New Testament passage. Remember, the exegesis must undergird or support the work that you're doing within your aspect of ministry statement and your project. Thank you, and I hope you have a great day.